and you're burning up your geo capacity for your utility and TIF debt, you know, that can be supported through revenue bonds. So when you have a general purpose project, street repairs, alley facilities, what have you, the capacity, your debt capacity is limited. So it's not as big a deal as it once was to try to put stuff in underneath the GO levy, even when it could have been done through a revenue issue. And there's no hard number. There's no, it depends on the tolerance of the board. If the spread is 75 basis points and you feel that's too much, you want to take advantage of the savings, and you try to lump anything under GO. Right now, the spreads are
The
not
reason I
significant.
ask though is because we're stating it as a preference here. If Mark went away tomorrow, okay, like we always say, we can't rely on him.
Won the lottery.
Right, and this is our policy. What triggers the board to say, you know, we might need to change this policy because the interest rates are changing? That's why I asked. The other way to state it would be, we shall consider financing through utility bonds when these factors make sense. So then that isn't saying, it's telling us as a board that every time we do this, we should be considering which gives us a better deal.
That's correct.
Rather than saying we should be using,
Doesn't say that. So
That's
when
right. There's no hard,
shall be financed.
there's no hard rule.
When feasible.
I understand, but that's because we have a low interest rate right now. I mean, the
I
difference is
get
small.
that, but I just thought when feasible gives us enough wiggle room.
Yeah.
And also to answer your question, when do we change that, is when you raise your hand, or I raise my hand, or anybody raises their hand, says, let's change our policy.
But we not be here. Another way to phrase it, so you wouldn't have to, you'd already have a trigger point, you wouldn't have to remember, is just to say, and we shall consider financing through revenue bonds, you know. So in other words, I know your intent is that we should be utilizing revenue bonds when the interest rates aren't that different.
From my perspective, I would have no problem with inserting, you know, after shall be considered to be financed through utility revenue bonds. That's the intent of the update, is just to bring that topic to light.
And every issue that we or any other municipality does is very carefully scrutinized by our bond consultants also. In this case, it's Eller and Associates, and you've seen their work, you know, how thorough they are. And they look at all of these options because there are variables, a lot of variables that come into play with every issue. And Mark talked about some of them was the amount that you need. If you need $250,000 for a small water system repair somewhere, that's not going to be feasible to finance that through a separate issue. So you just aggregate that in and do it as part of your GO. And of course, the utilities have to have the income stream and be able to, you know, meet their debt coverage requirements in order for, you know, the underwriters to purchase those revenue bonds. And so if you don't meet that, then you have to use GO. It's something that you do case by case as you go along. And one more thing, Mark, I think the really important piece of this policy is the 75% of your capacity, which is about 3.5% of your equalized assessed value, because that's the number that the rating agencies look at. And they're going to be concerned about any public agency that's pushing too close to their legal debt cap. They're not leaving a little room there just in case that rainy day or something really unanticipated were to occur and you needed that to raise money and you wouldn't have any debt capacity if you're pushing too close to the legal ceiling. So I think as long as you're staying within that parameter, how you split up the use of the GO debt isn't going to be as big a concern to the rating agencies, is the fact that you are staying at about 75% of your available debt capacity.
Well, yeah, to me, that's a much bigger policy issue here because we're going from under 50% of our equalized value, 2.25 plus, total of 2.25, so totals 5%, so we're under 50% to saying, as our goal, to now saying our goal is now 75%. And I mean, if you look at comparable places, you know, Tosa, Whitefish Bay, Greendale, they're all 50% or 30% or 33%. I mean, 75, I think 75%, I know that's where we are now, or close to where we are now, so it's making us consistent with where we are now, but as a goal,
Well,
I don't see it as a goal.
I understand what you're saying, and I just would add that this is the village's intent to limit itself to no more than. It's not necessarily a goal, but I understand what you're saying.
Could you do both? Could you insert something to say, no more than, we would, our goal,
Well, we've already done this once and our goals are long. I mean, if you look at it as a goal, the body acts on the needs of the community and the opportunities before it at the time. The problem is that this policy is dated to a point that this isn't really pertinent anymore, so.
So maybe the sentence is, it's our intent to reduce. I mean, like, you want to get to the point of, he's making it consistent to where we're at, right? And we're not going to go any higher. That's what the change will say. But I understand also, and I agree with, that our other goal is to reduce that percentage. And how do you get that in here so that people, so you're making your intent known, even though we're aware that we've authorized 75%, and our goal is not to go any higher. But our hope is, or, to guide us into the future, we'd like to reduce that. How do you do that? What's the right wording for that?
We can always put in, that the board's goal is to minimize use of debt service. However, our official policy is blank, what he has listed there. You could make some kind of comment like that. I've got to also point out that, again, the village has used their geodebt intentionally, in part because the utility rates were too low to support revenue debt because of their utilities, and the decisions were made to use a lot of geodebt instead of lease revenue bonds to support your economic development program. And that's fine.
And that's prior, that's why we're suggesting as policymakers
Right.
that that's just a suggestion of, that's what so we're saying, we're here, but maybe, we can ask the policymakers if the intent is to reduce that down.
I think that intent from a global standpoint, as I read it, is reflected in the first sentence in this section, where it says that it is the village's philosophy that its geo-borrowing authority must be protected and conserved. That's stating right there, our philosophy is conserve that.
It doesn't say reduce though.
Well,
I'm just
conserve
saying. I hear you don't agree with it, which is fine.
I'm okay with not stating it anywhere in here, but I'm just stating my opinion that 75% is it may be okay as an upper limit, but, I would be happier with a goal closer to 50%.
And our projections have us dropping below 50% in 2020. I mean, we're at peak total.
Right, so it's our
And
intent
that
to
just
reduce.
included another $2 billion.
Yeah, I think there's this
building.
balancing of, and we do this every time we bond, is, we got sewers we gotta fix, there's this balancing of debt loan versus the needs of the community. I mean, that's
I
Exactly what you're
think, I think
doing
just
every
bringing it
year.
up though is, if you just lay it on the table, we did accrue some debt that made our level go up, wasn't all utility, there was economic development policy in
Yeah,
there.
it's all
So-
economic.
Right, so, we don't wanna just pretend like it was all utility. And so I guess the intent is,
No.
from at least two of the trustees, which we're just voicing, was we would like to see that reduced down to 50, what we feel comfortable with. You don't have to agree, but is there a language that we could put in if we wanted to vote on it? And trustee Menta said she doesn't feel like she needs any language, and so we're good.
I wish you wouldn't put words in my mouth, because I didn't say I didn't support 50%. So when you say things like, well, two of us do and the rest of you don't, that you're putting into record something that, you're entering into the public record, something that hasn't been stated. I did not state that. So please, I would appreciate if you would cease doing that. Two people have expressed it. Nobody else has, as I've heard, has expressed anything one way or another regarding that 50%. So to state that only 2 of you are for that, please don't do that.
Do you want to say what you're for?
I want to hear the rest of the discussion.
What is our current geo debt right now? I mean, our debt limit's about 80 million, right?
It's a little in excess of 80 million.
Yeah, because we're 1.6 billion and 5% of 1.6 is 80. So
And
what,
depending on your equalized value projections,
pardon?
depending on your equalized value projections,
I'm doing it based on
yeah,
our last.
it's a little over 80 million.
Right.
We're at
And what-
51, we're at 51.469 million.
For geo debt?
Yeah.
Issued or authorized?
Oh, yeah,
Issue.
That's at,
that's geo.
Our limit is 80.
Our limit is 80.
I don't recall what our issue is, but I think it's right around 3% of equalized, so it's somewhere around 50.
3.15%, we're at 3.15% of equalized value.
On geo.
Well, that's what it says, yeah. That's the
Yeah.
red note at the bottom of page 119 in the draft and the proposed budget.
So,
Closer to 60, but it's continuing to drop off. A lot of that TID debt is fairly short-term, it's being paid off at a pretty good pace, so.
So does that include the TID debt?
yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm asking just for the non-TID debt, I'm sorry. So what is our non-TID, non-utility debt?
Well, we've got TID and we've got
I'm just basing it on.
GO. We don't have
But
breakouts.
we showed Moody's when we broke it into the 3 chunks.
Yeah, I don't have, I'm sorry, I don't have that report available right now.
We're gonna do that budget,
Yeah.
probably not tonight, maybe better to do it at 6 o'clock next Monday. But if you look in the budget, the GO portion that goes for general village improvement is that portion that's supported by the property tax levy.
Right.
So if you take a look at that, that'll tell you what is the GO portion of your annual debt service going for general improvement, streets, alleys, et cetera. And then if you take a look under the other revenue items, it'll show the transfers coming in from the other funds. And that'll show you how much is water, how much of it was for sewer.
That's debt service, it's not debt.
Right.
For debt service, that's correct. This is your annual cost for servicing your debt. And is the schedule in the same fund or in the back? There's a general schedule of all your master debt that shows, you know, the basic breakdown of what it was for.
The reason I'm asking the question is, you know, the way we used to have this worded, with the 1.25% and the 1%, I'm very comfortable with those as goals. Now, we've been exceeding those goals. We have this discussion all the time, and I've had this discussion with you too, Mark,
Yeah.
that I don't necessarily agree that we should change our policy guidelines to, and it's for the same reason that Trustee Ament is talking about it too. It's, you know, it kind of sounds like if you go to 50%, that's taking that 1.25 and raising it to 2.5. And that's, you know, it might be more of reality right now, but it's not a goal. You know, I think the 1.25 is more of a goal and a 1.0 for TID would be more of a goal too.
Well,
So I don't know that I agree with these policy guideline changes that you got, so we need more discussion.
well,
And I think that's why I was saying, I'm sorry, but I think that's why I was saying, I want to acknowledge that we're, you know, you don't want to always be in excess of your policy year after year after year, so you can acknowledge it, but then you want to state, and that's, I'm sorry, Paul, that's what I was trying to say, is, but we want to be at, our
Right,
goal
But
is,
as we're looking at a pro forma, looking out years, we can see how we're trying to get back to
reduce it down
to
to.
reduce, well, to have the numbers come down because we're having debt fall off as we're paying it off over time. And I want to be able to make sure that we're really looking at the difference between utility debt and TID debt and all the rest of the debt, you know. So I'm still not in agreement with changing the policy guidelines to 50% and 75%.
well,
Because that's not my goal.
And I fully understand that. If you want to change the policy to, or if you want to update the policy that says that the village of Shorewood has the goal to limit, as opposed to the intent to limit, that's a whole different context, because the challenge we run at when we make presentations is the village has stated that it has the intent to limit, and it has failed to do so.
Presentations
So-
to Moody's.
So the goal to limit has a little different context, and I'm just putting forth a baseline starting point for discussion here. I'm not going to the wall on whatever number the board decides. It's just a recommendation to update our policies in a number of areas.
Now, when somebody just said, is this, who's the presentations
Yeah, I
for
don't-
Moody's? Sure, but when we went to Moody's, they saw it and they saw that we were ahead of these, but then we explained